Hello there everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Joesephyr and welcome to another Should You Pull video for Dissidia Final Fantasy Omnia. Now with today's video we're going to be discussing Cloud of Darkness and their new LD and BT weapon that's going to be coming out. But it's not actually coming out until next week, and I'm filming this video before the community stream happens later today. And given that this event doesn't happen until next Monday on August the 2nd, and the fact that we're getting a maintenance tomorrow on the Tuesday, means that there is almost definitely something happening that's global first, global exclusive. Something is going to be happening this week, so do stay tuned for more details on that. But if you'd like to know more about Cloud of Darkness, the banners they come on, as well as the Divine Brothers Lufenia, then of course, as always, stay tuned and keep on watching. Of course, don't forget to check out all my social media links in the description box below. Over on Twitch, I've still got lots coming up. I'll be streaming whatever event comes out from the community stream, as well as streaming the community stream itself this evening. So if you'd like to come and join me for that, it's always lovely to have you. We always have a really, really good time with those. As well as like FFXIV, Final Fantasy Count-Up, which I did sadly have to miss last week due to recovering from my second COVID jab. But I'm all better now. If you watch my Dimensions and Transcendence video, you'll see quite how much I was like, trying to get through it. But I'm all better now, so go get your jabs, make sure you stay safe and keep those masks on. When it comes to Patreon, I always shout out one of my patrons every time I release one of my videos, and today that person is going to be Brighten, who is a Cyan fan, as you can see on their title card. And if you'd like to join in with Would You Pull, if you'd like to join in with voice chats we all do together to plan our pulls, etc. together, as well as lots of other benefits, including a title card made just for you, just like this one, then perhaps you'd like to consider joining up on my Patreon through the link in the description box below. And a big thank you once again to Brighten for being there. Don't forget, of course, to check out all of the other content creators there are out there for Dissidia, Final Fantasy Omnia, and all of the other resources there are out there in websites pertaining to more information. So before we get started, I'm just going to make a quick note as to why I'm releasing this video now and not later down the line, given that we know that this event is not happening until next Monday. Well, first things first, I am actually going away for a few days next week on a boat trip similar to, or canal boat trip similar to what I did last year, so I'm having a short holiday. So I wanted to get the information out as quickly as possible, but don't worry, I will still be releasing videos while I'm away, so don't panic about that. But also the fact that we now know through an in-game notice that the Divine Brothers event is happening on Monday, August 2nd, means that it's practically guaranteed that something is going to get announced over on the community stream later this evening. So, Small Shield, definitely come and join me on Twitch for that. But honestly, whether it'll be a global first or global exclusive again, like a brand new one, I don't know. Maybe it'll be LD boards for the existing ones that we have, like Vivi, Balthea, maybe even Vincent, who doesn't even have LD boards over in JP yet. So, it'll be interesting to see what comes out of that, and I will report on that, you know, as it happens as well. But when it comes to this particular banner, I wanted to get the information out as quickly as I could. So there's actually two banners here, but it takes a bit of a step back from Lael's banners, which both had two LDs featured on each of them, as these only actually have one. So the first of which, that will feature Cloud of Darkness, their AX, LD, BT, everything that goes with them, and then just Raijin and Balthea EXs, which I'm like, okay, you know, no second LD, which is kind of sad. And then the second banner will feature just Cloud of Darkness's BT, and then Gabranth and his full kit, so LD, EX, etc., as well as Charlotta and Yuri's EXs. So, Gabranth doesn't actually get anything out of this banner. He doesn't get anything new. He's just got his high armor plus, is the only new thing that he really gets here, which is nice. And if you've used Gabranth, he's okay, he's pretty solid. He's got a fantastic call ability, and he's actually one of the call abilities I've used most up until this point, thanks to its ability to augment any HP damage I'm dealing. But if you've got characters like Kurosame or Ignis, then the more of them you have, the less likely you are to use Gabranth. Like, Gabranth is still great, like, I still use him quite a lot, but my point being is, I think if you've lived without him for this long, I think you can continue to do so. His high armor is not bad. It's a 10% boost to the party for both bravery and HP limits, which is good. But given that he's most often used as a call ability, he's not the first character I would go for when it comes to bluing armor. But that being said, like, I mean, he's a very popular character, and he certainly isn't bad. He has instant break capabilities in his LD. Obviously, I've released videos on Gabranth before, and you know, feel free to go back and check those if you want more details on what Gabranth himself does. But right now, I don't think he is a pressing matter. I think you can safely get around him if you've not had him up until this point. So let's have a look at Cloud of Darkness now. So I'm going to talk about Cloud of Darkness like one skill at a time and just a general overview as well. They are a delay-based damage dealer, magic damage dealer, that can do a very, very large chunk of damage very quickly, but are very reliant on a stack-based buff or special effect that they get called Darkness. So what Darkness is, and I'll go through that first before we talk about the skills, is a counted up like a stack marker that allows for a certain ability or like her skill 2 to change into a different skill that's significantly stronger and is arguably the strongest ability in their kit. So for every stack of darkness you have, you get 10% max brave overflow, and while you are at max stacks after getting the LD, their HP damage goes up as well. And you know, they actually have a rework coming like hopefully sort of November time with their BT plus, and that will come into play as well later, as well as to whether you should pull for them or not. And then this HP damage gets augmented quite considerably. So how do we get the darkness stacks? Now the first ability here is Insulating Appendages, which on its own is kind of a rubbish attack. It's a 4-hit AoE, bravery, single target HP attack that gives 1 stack of darkness, 2 if you're breaking an enemy. And it also grants the annulling power buff, which is your typical sort of offensive buff that increases your attack and max bravery. Also gives you access to a brave plus and HP plus attack by any other name. Toying Appendages being the brave plus, which is a 6-hit bravery attack that gives darkness stacks +1, +2 if you're breaking the target. An Uncanny Beam is the HP plus, which is a 3-hit brave HP with 20% splash damage that gives you a darkness stack if you break something with it. You also get a counter attack off of this as well. We'll come back to the counter attack when we talk about the LD, because that's where it's going to pay more attention. But the fact that Cloud of Darkness has a counter attack is very odd, considering they're not a tank-based character. They don't redirect damage to themselves or anything, but it does have some very fun interactions with their kit. But Insulating Appendages is just your typical brave HP attack that grants some of the stacks of the buff that you're looking for, and that's pretty much it. Wide Angle Particle Beam. Now, this is their skill 2, which you consume darkness stacks by using, and you always consume up to 5 of them. So if you have less than 5, you'll consume all of them. If you have 5, then you'll consume them all, but using a different attack. Wide Angle Particle Beam is a 6-hit AoE brave HP attack with 100% AoE damage for HP to every enemy. So it's not a weak attack by any means, and it also delays all enemies by 1 turn. But because it consumes all of your darkness stacks, you're probably only ever going to use this if you are at 0 darkness stacks, maybe 1 if you don't mind losing it. But the idea is that you are building up to get 5 stacks so that you would then unlock the Zero Form Particle Beam. Zero Form Particle Beam is arguably, not even arguably, it's the strongest attack in Cloud of Darkness's kit, realistically. It is a 6-hit brave HP attack with 20% splash damage that goes off 3 times, so that's 3 HP dumps, which is pretty good for this point in time. It's really strong. And it delays the target by 3 turns. Now, this is a single target attack, whereas Wide Angle Particle Beam is an AoE attack, which is a bit weird. You also don't consume an ability use when using Zero Form Particle Beam, so as long as you're able to keep getting the darkness stacks, your longevity will last for a long amount of time as well. So ideally, you are just building up darkness stacks to use Zero Form Particle Beam as often as you possibly can. Their C65 is Break Reset, which is the same as Lightning or characters like that, where they unbreak an enemy so that they can then re-break them. And this was originally used so that you could then use either their EX or Insulating Appendages so that you'd get 2 darkness stacks off of it. However, with the LD, this has another use where this becomes a lot more prevalent. And you get 3 uses of this, similar to Lightning, and this is very, very useful. Anti-Air Particle Beam is the EX attack, which has a decent recast rate as well, which is very important to know because you're going to use this as frequently as you can get it realistically. You will then get a 6-hit brave HP attack, single target again, inflicted twice, that delays by 1 turn, and it also gives you darkness stacks. If you get like 1 if you are hitting with it, and another 1 if you break with it. It's very, very strong in terms of being able to use HP dumps regularly, and it's got a fast recast rate. You also get Flood of Darkness from it. Flood of Darkness is more attack up and also a bravery poison, or like a strong bravery poison that isn't a debuff, it's attached to Cloud of Darkness. So that was always a fun thing that you could do. So you would use this to build up your stacks of darkness if it was available, especially if the enemy was unbroken through use of your C65 if you desperately need darkness stacks, or you would just use it for extra delay if you had it. Now, high speed particle beam. This is the LD attack. This is a re-break, so it unbreaks the enemies. Does a AoE Brave HP attack that's executed 3 times, so 3 HP dumps again. You also get 5 darkness stacks from this. You get an additional use of their skill 1, so you get an insulating appendages use back. You get the ability to go above 5 stacks of darkness, but only when using this attack. It doesn't actually raise the cap of darkness stacks for your other skills. So if you're already at 5 and you're using other skills, it won't increase it. But if you're at 5, 10, whatever, and you use high speed particle beam, you'll gain 5 more above the cap. So it means you can use zero form particle beam multiple times on the trot, which is great if you have their burst weapon as well, because it means you can just spam it during a burst attack and just delay to hell and back. And then you get balance of destruction as well, which is attack HP damage up by 20%. So given that there's multiple HP dumps in the kit, that's always very nice as well. You get bravery damage up by 50% as long as you're dealing crits, as long as you're hitting something broken. And you get the lightning style ability of whenever you break a target, you get a free turn after it. So that's it, you're able to make use of, say, the C65 if you wanted to. Unbreak a target, break it with skill 1 or EX to get the darkness stacks, and then you have an opportunity straight afterwards to use those darkness stacks or build up more. Like, it's just a nice extra thing to have. It makes for a very, very strong, just repeated break delay. We've seen characters like Cloud of Darkness before, but it's just sort of dialed right up to 11 with this. It also improves Cloud of Darkness's counter. Now, Cloud of Darkness's counter is a 3-hit Brave HP attack that recovers bravery. But if you break an enemy with this, while you have the LD buff up, your turn jumps straight to where they are. And it's very, very weird. Like, those kind of sort of shenanigans with Cloud of Darkness are very odd, and that's probably why they have a counter in the first place. But the fact that Cloud of Darkness has a counter at all is very strange, considering that they don't tank, they don't lock, they don't do anything that directs damage to them, and they only counter HP attacks as well. It's a fun interaction with the LD, but it's not something I would ever rely on. But also, like, when Cloud of Darkness comes back around again with their slight rework and LD board extension, the HP damage that you get from darkness stacks goes up to about 50%, so you're gonna get a huge amount of damage like later down the line, back over in November. And given that we're in August now, it's actually not that long before Cloud of Darkness gets their BT+, so that's something that's definitely worth bearing in mind. So now let's talk about their BT. Ultra Particle Beam. So AoE Brave HP attack, split damage, grants the Ultra Particle Beam buff for 5 turns. So, if you've ever used Noctis, you'll know what this kind of thing is. So, after any party member action acts, any party member acts against an enemy, Cloud of Darkness will jump in and do a 5-hit Brave HP attack that's split damage, regardless of what happens. And it also gives them a stack of darkness. So, the more turns you spend with other characters, the more likely you are to be able to start spamming Zero Form Particle Beam with Cloud of Darkness. Now, you can use this with combo-based characters such as Tifa, Terra, etc., who spam their own turns, get loads, and Cloud of Darkness will follow them up repeatedly. However, the timing for this follow-up attack is very odd. And bear in mind the LD buff. When Cloud of Darkness breaks something, they jump turns. So, say you're Terra, and you're spamming your meteors, you're spamming your meltdowns during an LD phase with Terra. Because of the timing of Cloud of Darkness's BT follow-up, they can gain bravery between the end of Terra's turn and Cloud of Darkness's follow-up. So sometimes Cloud of Darkness will kind of jump in where their nose isn't wanted, so you have to be very careful, or at least be mindful of it, because it's still really powerful. Like, really powerful. And the fact that obviously it means that those 5 turns of the buff will tick down quicker than you'd like it to sometimes. But the fact that they jump turns and then do a Zero Form Particle Beam and push their turn further back, by the time you've finished with those turns, you're getting a lot out of it. Like, Cloud of Darkness is really powerful. Like, really powerful. There are a lot of characters like Cloud of Darkness, and if you don't like delay-based shenanigans, and a lot of players don't, a lot of people find it brain dead, a lot of people think it's boring, and if you have characters like Garland and Cypher and characters that delay quite heavily, then Cloud of Darkness is... I am very excited for Cloud of Darkness, but I like that type of playstyle where it's combo-tastic and you can jump in turns. And I think most people will want Cloud of Darkness because it's very clear that with multiple HP dumps in all of their skills, except for skill 1, that they're going to do a lot of damage. And if you get a burst, realistically, you're going to want Cloud of Darkness's burst to make Cloud of Darkness as good as they can be. Without it, they're not quite there. But with the burst phase being as strong as it is, because you can save up those darkness stacks using the LD, you can like just spam zero form particle beams quite frequently through it. Like if you have 5 darkness stacks and then you use an LD to get to 10, and then you burst, you've got 3 turns worth of zero form particle beam, as well as the LD, and then your 5th turn is an EX. That's a lot of delay right there, and a lot of damage as well. So it's a very strong burst phase, and when over in November, when they come back alongside Vayne, that burst phase gets even stronger. So having access to it now, I think is very prudent for the future, because it's a strong damage dealer that's very, you know, it's interactive in a weird way and like combo-tastic in weird ways. Cloud of Darkness and Garland together can decimate any enemy that doesn't require you to allow them to take turns. It's just that simple. Like, they will just not take turns. And I think that that they're a very, very powerful character. It's just a case of whether you like the playstyle or not. To finish up talking about Cloud of Darkness's core abilities, they're pretty good. They're nothing like super crazy. Like the regular one is wide angle particle beam, so it's a good amount of damage and a delay for an AoE delay. And then high speed particle beam is a re-break attack that allows you to have a little bit of HP damage increase through the core ability itself. It's fine. It's not something I would use very frequently. Like, and if you have Cypher, you're more likely to use Cypher's call abilities because there's a much larger delay across those. And I just think that there are much better call abilities for you to be using. But they're not bad. They're not bad. But Cloud of Darkness is the kind of character you would want to be using in your main party. Cloud of Darkness's high armor is attack keystone. I'm torn with Cloud of Darkness when it comes to the attack keystone and like whether to blue the armor or not. I think I probably would. I think if as somebody who plans to use Cloud of Darkness fairly frequently, I probably would use this, but I tend to save using high armor plus on damage dealers anyway. And Cloud of Darkness, I think, is the reason that I decided against giving it to Sephiroth, because I think I'm going to use Cloud of Darkness more frequently going forward, and especially considering that Cloud of Darkness comes back fairly soon in November with their Burst Plus and a slight rework. So like I said earlier, or alluded to earlier, the adjustments that come around then are insulating appendages becomes a double HP dump, which is significantly better. It's still not an incredible attack, but it's a lot better. And then the darkness buff gives you more HP damage dealt up like from stacks 1 to 4, and then if you've got 5 or more stacks, you get 50% HP damage dealt up, all told. And then the Burst Plus also makes it so that the burst effect is extended to 8 turns. Bear in mind that with Burst Plus, you can actually get this twice if you max it out, and you get a Party Brave Overflow and HP damage dealt up aura, which means that Cloud of Darkness's HP damage is really quite staggering. So I personally really like Cloud of Darkness, and I, certainly as somebody who's very excited for Vayne, don't much fancy pulling for Cloud of Darkness's Burst Plus when they come out then. So I'd much rather have it now and use it from the period of time up until they get the Burst Plus. All told, I think Cloud of Darkness is a fantastic character. They are a little bit brain dead, for want of a better word, because they're a delay-based character, but you do still have to worry about managing the darkness stacks correctly, because there are situations in which you wouldn't want to do it, you wouldn't want to use it. But the other thing I haven't touched on as well, before we move on, is how fantastic a friend unit Cloud of Darkness is. Cloud of Darkness, alongside any other burst unit, doing the follow-ups every turn, like it adds up a lot of damage, and the fact that you're getting good damage and a large delay off of Cloud of Darkness, if you pair them up with Garland or Sephiroth, they're able to build the darkness stacks up just by having the darkness buff, or just by having the BT effect up. So you can go BT effect, start getting the follow-ups. Then you want the LD ability because you'll want to have access to like the HP damage up for the follow-ups that you're going to continue using. And then you just start spamming skill 2, which is Zero Form Particle Beam and delaying things to high heaven. It's awkward occasionally with combo characters, but it's combo-tastic enough. And if you liked Noctis, you're gonna like Cloud of Darkness, and a lot of people liked Noctis. So now, of course, let's talk about the event that's coming along with Cloud of Darkness, which is going to be Divine Brothers, which is a summon board. So a great excuse for us to gain a butt ton of resources, as I'm sure we all could do with, and we always appreciate. But Divine Brothers obviously is a farmable event, and the more synergy units you have for it, the better. So if you've got Cloud of Darkness, then you don't really have to worry about a lot of the stuff, especially being a delay-based character. You can kind of auto-plus it and then just leave it to farm itself. You know, it's a really nice thing to be able to have a character that could just go, yep, I got this, it's all good. But with the Lufenia mission, now the Lufenia mission is another delay-based one. A lot of Cloud of Darkness' stuff is delay-based and across their synergy, and a lot of people don't like these because they're a bit boring. And I understand that. These guys are a little, like, they have some extra quirks to them in that while Saket and Minotaur are up and they're separated, Minotaur will put up a buff that makes it so that you can't, or a special effect that makes it so you can't gain bravery. And the only way to get rid of that is by delaying him for 3 turns at once. So you're expected to use Zero Form Particle Beam, of course. So you're going to bring some large amounts of delay here because you have to, because not only that, but when they do unite after they both reach under 60% HP, or one of them goes under, I think it's 20% HP, they merge like they do in the other fights with brothers, and then the Lufenia Orb will appear, and at that point you have to delay the enemy by 1 turn to get +2 on the counter, or if you Zero Form Particle Beam them for 3 turns, you'll get +15 count. Now be very careful letting them take turns though, because instead of it ticking down by 2 with the Lufenia Orb, it ticks down by 5. So if you are letting them take turns, be very, very mindful of that. They're also immune to speed down and turn rate down, so delaying them is the only way to like really push them far away, except of course for Sephiroth's burst effect. So if you've got Sephiroth and you like using Sephiroth, he'll work very well here in terms of just keeping them at bay. So if you wanted to bring a Sephiroth friend unit, then you could do it that way. Or if you want to bring a Cloud of Darkness friend unit, you can do it that way. Garland. Garland is fantastic for this event. You're probably going to want 2 delayers for this particular party, so if you have Cloud of Darkness and Garland, honestly, you could stop watching the video right now. You will be fine. If you have Cypher, then you can use him. If you have Aranea, then you can use her. There's a lot of ways of delaying the enemies, and you know, you just have to be careful to keep on top of the Gaia power buff that stops you from gaining bravery. So if you're not bringing Cloud of Darkness, then you'll want to bring a Cloud of Darkness friend if you're planning on using bravery gain support based characters like Porum and Cecil and things like that. You'll want to bring somebody to get rid of that buff, or you can just go ham with calls and damage dealers and just take Cloud of Darkness, Garland, Cloud of Darkness friend, etc. And Tifa's fantastic for this as well. Tifa delays by a turn with her EX, so at least she's staying on top of the orb as well. Basically, just do as much damage as you can. Make sure the turns are delayed for as long as possible. If you let them take turns, they have pretty nasty AoE Brave HP attacks that you can get around with the likes of Porum, etc. And just making sure you're staying safe. Warrior of Light as well, obviously. But it's all about the delay. It's something that it's a bit of a trend for these next couple of weeks, or at least like Cloud of Darkness' batch of banners. Delay is a big deal. So if you haven't got Garland or Cloud of Darkness, then that's even more reason for perhaps you to think about pulling for Cloud of Darkness. So now, of course, we come to the big question whether you should be pulling on the Divine Brothers banners. So I'm going to start with the Gabranth one, because honestly, I actually forgot it was there for a long while, because while Gabranth's call ability is still really good, you're not likely to use Gabranth in your main party all that often. Like, he's certainly not bad. The instant break capabilities is still there. The bravery HP damage reduction is still there. He is a very adequate support character. But when we're talking about spending resources this close to both BT Plus and the likes of Tidus and Unit and Setzer and Agrius, etc., adequate I would like more. But Cloud of Darkness, on the other hand, is really good. Like, really, really, really good. As a magic damage sort of delay character, you're not going to go wrong with Cloud of Darkness. It's a little awkward to get used to their kit at first, because there are going to be times where you're like, oh, damn, I don't have enough darkness stacks to do Zero Form Particle Beam. Do I use Wide Angle and risk losing them all? Do I do this? But having that LD buff with the Rebreak and the extra turns makes it significantly easier to manage the darkness buff. And, you know, pairing them up with other damage dealers like Garland or Sephiroth means if you're against a boss that doesn't require taking turns, they're not going to get one, period. Like, they're just not going to get one. And you're churning out a lot of damage in the meantime as well. So Cloud of Darkness' ability to just outright just write off certain bosses, particularly if they're single target ones, means you're going to have a good time with Cloud of Darkness. The BT follow-up as well is just really combo-tastic. If you enjoyed Noctis, and I know a lot of people did, I know I did, then you're going to enjoy Cloud of Darkness as well. You know, there's a lot of similarity between them in terms of the way the follow-ups work, and therefore, because it's AoE as well, it's slightly stronger than Noctis's one was, and because of the ability to combo it with certain characters like your Terrors, your Lightnings, your Tifa's, etc., there's a lot to like there. However, I do think that Cloud of Darkness requires their BT more than a lot of characters do to be really good, because the BT phase is also a massive deal for Cloud of Darkness by having that extra LD use, by having the ability to spam Zero Form Particle Beam multiple times and just laser things into oblivion is a worthwhile, noteworthy thing. And it's something that without the burst phase and without the burst effect, Cloud of Darkness just doesn't quite match up. Like, they're good still, they're very good still, and you'd use them for synergy, definitely, but then you probably wouldn't use them after that, which is a shame, because when they return with their BT+, they get even better. So it's a good long-term investment, considering it's only 4 months or so before it's estimated to come back. So, and it's alongside Vayne, who's also very, very powerful, so having access to it now is probably a really good idea, because you'll get the most out of Cloud of Darkness for the period of time. And there's a summon board. Having Cloud of Darkness is going to make farming that summon board 10 times easier, and I know that's probably not a reason for a lot of people to want to pull, but it's certainly one for me, because I like, if it's a long grind of me getting loads of resources at the end, I want to make that grind as painless as possible. And if it's a character that I can use later down the line, then even better. And Cloud of Darkness is a character that you will use for a decent length of time, if not a really long length of time if you really enjoy using them. But not everyone is going to, because a lot of people don't like delay-based strategies. It's just, again, like any banner, it's a taste-based thing. But to say that Cloud of Darkness is not worth your resources would be an absolute lie. They're very, very strong. And then finally, we come to Would You Pull, the section of the video where you, the viewer, get your chance to make your voice heard and let everyone know whether you would or wouldn't pull on any given banner and why. So a big thank you goes out to my patrons for casting their votes and their comments, of course, before the community stream comes about, so that we can gather the information and people's opinions of Cloud of Darkness beforehand. But obviously, we still think that there's going to be something announced that may or may not shake everything up. This video is being released early so that we have the information to play on when it comes to that particular event, whatever it may be. So, going into the numbers for Cloud of Darkness, 41% of people said yes, they were going to spend gems on this banner, 44% said they were going to spend over 100 tickets on it, 6% of people said that they were going to spend less than 100 tickets on it, and 9% of people said no to Cloud of Darkness. Now, again, I'm fairly sure, like, I didn't get pretty much any comments relating to Gabranth at all. I think that Gabranth at this point is a fairly safe skip, it is a very safe skip, like if you haven't had them already or if you just don't feel the need to use them. But let's go into some of the comments. Goose here says, currently capped on tickets, so going hard with those. As always, I think it's very much worth your while pulling the 2-week synergy unit that comes with summon boards just by virtue of how much they cut down the grind. Something I was saying earlier. However, Cloud of Darkness has the distinction of being pretty damn good, though they definitely want their BT to get the most out of them. Given all the hype that's been going on around them, I honestly see them as a bit more niche than some of the upcoming powerhouses, such as Tidus, Yuna, etc. The way to unlock their real damage is by running a turn stealer or high turn rate character alongside the BT, and as a result they do exceptionally well as a friend unit as well, especially alongside Tidus or Yuna BT, to really maximise the Yang Noctis style follow-ups. They're very fun, perfectly fine without playing that way, but I think getting the most out of them demands a very specific playstyle that not everyone enjoys all that much. perfect. Like, honestly, everything about this comment I agree with. I do think that having that ability to cut that grind down is actually more valuable than people give it credit. But the fact that Cloud of Darkness lasts for a long period of time with the BT, you know, that it's a merit in and of itself. And if you're looking forward to Tidus, for example, who is a turn maniac, then he pairs up really well with them as well. And Yuna is also very strong, and pairs up well with Cloud of Darkness on merit of being a support character as well as doing a lot of damage. Like, there's a lot of characters that synergize very well with Cloud of Darkness. You can get a lot out of it. It's the same thing as I said when it came to Sephiroth. If you don't like Cloud of Darkness, you can get a lot out of them by using them as a friend unit. And I said the same thing for Sephiroth. Not that I did not say that Sephiroth was bad or anything like that. So for people who came for me in the comments in that video, that is not what I said. I think that Cloud of Darkness is a great character, but there are reasons why certain players may not want to pull for them. Nalthian says, it's tickets for Cloud of Darkness for me. I refuse to skip any 2-week synergy character entirely because they're useful for that opinion of nothing else. That said, Cloud of Darkness reminds me of Joe's opinion on Sephiroth, that you can basically get all of their value by using them as a friend unit. I'm also not a big fan of their overall cycle. After disastrous cycles for Bart's last month and Lael this month, Cloud of Darkness' cycle looks like a great place to replenish my resources before the gauntlet of Tidus and Yuna. Cloud of Darkness is a fantastic character. So is Sephiroth. So I'm using that a lot. I said it before I read this comment out, and this comment actually gives me the ability to kind of say, I never said Sephiroth was a bad character. He's an extremely good character. I said the prize on that banner was Warrior of Light on the back of being a support character, and alongside Porum, there's already memes on Reddit about being immortal if you have access to them both. So that's where I was coming at from that. But Cloud of Darkness is also very helpful as a friend unit. But to say that either of those characters is not good in your main party is a lie. They are both extremely powerful, and while Sephiroth hasn't had his BT plus or his EX plus, his EXC90, etc., we don't know what that's going to be. We do, however, know with Cloud of Darkness how soon we're going to be getting their BT plus, and that because it's not that far away, that level of value increases exponentially. Martin Sittick says, Gems. Yes, they were one of my favourite characters in the PSP Dissidia. It also helps that they're a powerhouse that has nice longevity and gets that BT plus sooner rather than later. Their kit was fun to charge out and let loose in EX era, looking for that fun again. And I want a birthday present, so I hope they're nice. Looking angrily at Poor and Pity. I feel your pain, I wish you happy birthday, and I hope you have good luck for Cloud of Darkness to make up for Porum. Me too. No plans on when I'm going to use them yet, as I'm just going on feels alone. But I will try to use them anywhere I can. At worst, stick them as your friend unit. At worst, if you like Cloud of Darkness and you want to use them, put them up as your friend unit. Let other people reap the benefits from them. Cloud of Darkness with a Cloud of Darkness friend actually doesn't suck. Like, you know, you're not going to use the burst necessarily because the same burst effects don't stack twice. But Garland plus Cloud of Darkness, Sephiroth plus Cloud of Darkness, Bartz plus Cloud of Darkness, Tidus plus Cloud of Darkness, they all work. Like, there's lots of combo potential to go with Cloud of Darkness that makes them valuable. And then finally, Kendall says, going with Gems for Call of Duty's banner. All the jokes aside, she ends up being a really nasty follow-up damage unit that does not fall off for months to come. If you thought that Yang and Noctis follow-ups were nasty, then Cloud of Darkness's LD will be disgusting. It's true. Like, there's a lot of combo potential for this character, and they are, like, you know, like I said, Sephiroth is great, Garland is great, Terra is great, Lightning is great, there's lots, Aranea is great, there's loads of characters that benefit Tifa from Cloud of Darkness. I'm really like just spouting examples off, but feel free to comment below and let me know other examples of where you want to use Cloud of Darkness and the kinds of like characters that you think will pair up really well with them. Because I think while a lot of people don't like the whole delay thing, I actually do, but only in the sense that like follow-ups plus delay is when they're delay and then something else as well. Like, I am of the opinion that I don't really plan on pulling on the rest of Cloud of Darkness's banner because I already have Gladio. I can live without Sabin, even though he's actually pretty good. The same goes for Queen because I'm going to wait until the second coming of Queen where she's significantly better. So if I get the LD quickly for Cloud of Darkness, I would probably just burst token her burst and then just save from that point onwards. Depending on whether we get free pulls on Sabin and Queen, etc. I think I definitely want the kit. I'm just wondering how far I'm willing to go for it, given that I just pity Porum. So that's going to be all for today's video. Of course, don't forget to come and check me out over on Twitch this evening if you'd like to come and watch the community stream with me. If it is a LD exclusive or a global first for LD. If it's Alize and Alphino, or either or both, I will. That's it. Nothing else matters. You can leave this entire video redundant. I will be all in on them. Otherwise, obviously, let me know in the comments below whether you're planning on pulling for Cloud of Darkness or even Gabranth. Maybe you're like, everyone else sort of ignoring Gabranth is not right for you. Maybe you're really after him still. Let me know in the comments below. And of course, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click that bell for notifications. And I shall see you hopefully a bit later on, if not later on in the week, or tomorrow even, or this evening, for recaps on the community stream and hopefully some good news regarding some global exclusive footage. So thank you all very much for coming, and I shall see you then. Take care.